Urban development has transformed San Francisco's connection with water, its most important natural resource. Though our relationship with water changes over time, its importance in our lives never diminishes. Every San Franciscan has a watershed story.
Hello, I'm Herb Dang from the Islais Creek Watershed, and here's my watershed story. I was born January 11th, 1956 at Franklin Hospital, which is no longer here. I grew up in the southeast sector, mostly in Portola. My parents first lived in a house that 280 did away with on Trumbull and San Bruno. Then I moved to Silver and Madison. My dad was Chinese and my mom was white. When they got married, they couldn't get a marriage license in California because they were considered a mixed race couple and Chinese weren't allowed to marry whites. Part of the reason they ended up in the southeast sector is because of covenants on homes wouldn't allow them to buy a home because they were considered mixed race. So they ended up in Portola. My grandfather was a butcher in a company store on Maui, and when my dad settled out here, him and his brother, they would go fishing together after work. My dad started out in the park for Park and Rec as a stationary engineer, so he worked at the aquarium, the Hall of Flowers, and that stuff, and then he ended up working for the school district, so he was out in Tolan Street and Army Street. And they'd fish off Land's End in the ocean. Then when they came to this side of town, they would fish in Yosemite and Islais. Butchertown was the neighborhood we grew up in. It was a subset of Bayview. It was basically from Islais Creek south, about 3 blocks, and there were meat packing plants, and they'd all wash everything out on Friday afternoons onto the streets, into the storm drains, and into the creek. All the blood, the guts, the skin, the stuff that they couldn't use to make anything else out of. So it'd be full of all that stuff, and it would bring all the fish in. My dad and my uncle particularly liked fishing on Fridays, and they would get bigger fish because of that. I started my career with the PUC in the 70s, working at pump stations, mostly around the periphery of the city. What happened is we cleaned up the discharge from all of our human activities on the side of the bay, and what we ended up with is a cleaner bay. But what my uncle and dad and future father-in-law said is I ruined the fishing. All the fish got small, they weren't here on Friday afternoons, you had to pay attention to the tides and where you fished, because otherwise you didn't catch anything anymore. We have such clean water and we use it just once. It's sort of not a real great thing to only use it once. I'd like us to recycle that water, at least use it for flushing and for plants and for cement and construction. That's one of those things that's pretty simple to do. Discover your watershed today.